Welcome into Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho.
And this is Jacob Waters.
And guys, we have an awesome show for you guys today. We are going to be going through all the news and notes around the NFL, which we do every single week. We have an extended word from camp section today, so we're going to be talking about all the fantasy relevant news going on all around the NFL. And then we have a new segment we're bringing up, Hamstring Watch, because we try and keep you guys informed about all the injuries, and hamstring is just so prevalent this year, and maybe it's prevalent every year, but I feel like we're noticing it more this year than ever. I want everyone to know, because those things, they stick around, so we're gonna keep you guys informed. We're gonna do that every single week. Close out the show with a fantasy football profile and our top 5 deep sleepers.
Deep sleepers.
Deep sleepers. These are extra deep. This is a fantasy heavy episode, and guys, if you are watching this and thinking, man, this is a little bit shorter than normal, don't worry, we have another episode coming out this week as well. We're going to record right after we're done recording this. We're going through my fantasy rankings, so if you're interested in some fantasy football rankings and all that, we'll get into that in the next episode, but look out for that if you're interested.
Yeah, and while we're clearing up some stuff, you still see the T.Y. Hilton hanging up behind us right here. If you would, please subscribe to our channel. It really means a lot to us, and put a comment on this video saying, hey, here for the jersey. That will enter you one time. We have a video from last week that you can also enter in and go back to that one and enter in 2 times. And we're going to run this for 3 more episodes, I would say, and then put all the names in and draw it out. Winner gets the T.Y. Hilton jersey sent to you for free. You can also do this on Apple Podcasts, 5-star review, leave the comment. We're good to go.
Yeah. Just subscribe, comment. That's all you got to do.
Boom, boom, boom. Help us give stuff away.
Exactly. All right, guys, we will get into it. First thing we got to talk about today is the COVID testing mistake that happened.
Yeah, the dilemma thing.
It was kind of this scary thing that hit where all of a sudden it was like, 6 different teams had to cancel practice for a day. And then it turned out, well, it was all from the same testing center, and they all ended up being false positives.
Fake news.
So just a minor thing, really. Didn't end up being a big thing. Scary, though, right?
Well, honestly, it's good that it's fake news, because that's the last thing that football fans, if we want to see the game played this fall, that could shut it down.
Yeah.
That could shut it all down. All it takes is one massive outbreak that goes down, and you never know. Postpone, push back, done.
You're absolutely right. It's one of those things where I remember seeing, I was at work, and I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, it's like, this is not what we need right now.
Yeah, and it ended up being false positives, like you said.
Yeah.
Thank God. The NFL has actually been kind of, I would say, lucky and done a good job at times dealing with the pandemic. They haven't had a lot of issues. The issues they have had have been, handled pretty well, I feel like, and it's worked out about as well as you can with, the situation. So I'm actually kind of excited. I feel the most confident I've ever been that we're having football season this year. Throughout the offseason, it was kind of touch and go there for a minute. It's happening, man. I'm excited.
I was about to say the same. I feel as confident as I've ever been in saying that we're going to get to see some version of football played. It's probably going to be, the one that we all have come to love over the years. It's going to be a good game. I'm hoping that, players aren't really going down every single week with it, but we know that that's going to be a factor, and that's something we're going to have to look at. But either way, we still get to see the product, and that's all we want. It's good. We'll move on to the Ravens releasing Earl Thomas. He got into a dispute at practice, punched a guy. It looked like the video was over some blown coverage type of thing. Either way, they saved themselves $25 million in dead cap over the 2. No, it carries. It carries. So they're hurting.
Yeah. So they're in a little bit of trouble. Well, it was one of those things where he gets in a fight. Last week at some point? Yeah. I think it was like last Thursday or Friday. He gets in a fight, and he's not cut right off the bat. They were trying to trade him.
Well, they were weighing their options. Yeah.
They were trying to figure out, and then after he gets cut, you hear all these reports. Apparently, it was not very well liked in among the teammates, and the Ravens were just trying to do everything they could to get out of that contract. Either way, they're eating $25 million over the next 2 years.
Well, he would show up late. He had some dissonance with the coaches. It just wasn't working out, and I don't know. He's had a really, really bad offseason with his name being in the news for the situation with his brother and wife.
I forgot about that.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah,
to
you're
think that something
right.
like that can happen, and that just gets swept under the rug so easily. More power to him, I guess. Don't hold anything over his head for a personal matter, but he had that going on, so that was definitely there. And now this, Who knows? I'm hearing the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think Cowboys. I heard 49ers too. There was
and the Chiefs. I think that's just people wanting to make some fucking gun squads.
It's one of those things where like you always kind of assume when it's So I feel like he comes from the Seattle scheme. The Ravens did not run the Seattle scheme, and they and the Ravens kind of have a complex defense, especially in the coverage because they're always sending different weird blitzes and stuff. Very complex defense from that standpoint.
Can't learn it.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying you're gonna put me in a bad spot. What I'm saying is I'm looking at the teams that do run that Seattle scheme. So to me, it makes more sense. 49ers, Jacksonville Jaguars, Atlanta Falcons. It's all over the NFL. I'm missing a lot of teams as well. But that makes the most sense to me. But then also, he has said multiple times he wants to go to the Cowboys. He was still with the Seahawks when the video surfaced where he was like, I want to be here as long as I can. But when they kick me to the curb, Cowboys come get me.
Yeah, he said, Jerry, come get me.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there was mixed reports today from Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter coming out. Rapp said that the Cowboys had no interest, right, in Jerry Jones, and Schefter said that they do. And Jerry Jones
came out and said that he doesn't know where Rapp is getting his information, but it's incorrect. So we'll see what happens. I mean, at this point in his career, I don't know how much of an impact he's going to have.
He's still a Pro Bowl caliber safety. I
agree with that. I'm saying right now with all the issues, is he Pro Bowl caliber or is he just like middle of the pack?
I think he's Pro Bowl caliber. I do. And I think if he is able to land at a team like Dallas, whose secondary was decimated from losing Byron Jones to the Dolphins.
That's true. Yeah.
It could be one of the last weak spots on that team, if you will.
They're
primed and ready to
we
go.
We were pointing the finger when Adams was still with the Jets, that the Cowboys could trade for him. So it makes sense. We've been trying to connect dots for the Cowboys with a safety for a while.
Well, it's because they have HaHa Clinton Dix at free safety, but if you're able to, or he can run strong too, but if you're able to bring in Earl Thomas too, it could help out those
a future Hall of Fame safety. Not a bad thing to add to your defense, right? I will still say, as far as the Ravens, I still think they're probably one of the most talented. They're the most. Am I crazy to say they're the most talented team, like roster-wise, top to bottom? They're just stacked. It seems like
they're top five, guaranteed.
Yeah, offensively, defensively, they have studs all over the field. They have a lot of talent. I'm not super worried about the Ravens.
No, defense. This doesn't swing them any variation of a win or loss.
I don't think so.
They're still coming into 2020 ready to go.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll move on. Talk about the Cowboys a little bit more. Cowboys did restructure Tyron Smith's contract, saving about $7 million. I always find these things interesting, right? We talk about it all the time on the show. They're not moving money around for no reason, right? Could this be an Earl Thomas thing? It could be. It could also be a Jadeveon Clowney thing.
God.
I'm just saying.
They lost Gerald McCoy.
Clowney's still there. They lost Jared McCoy. Does Clowney say, man, I could do a 1-year prove-it deal with the Cowboys, take $12 million, or whatever it is,
and be the second best D lineman on there because DeMarcus Lawrence is there,
and fucking wreck people for a year? On a team that he knows is going to be good because they're the Cowboys are top 5 talent too. They
have no more excuses. With Mike McCarthy coming into town there, they're moving around money for something, like you said.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so scary though.
Scary. Yeah.
Cowboys fans, be excited. It's going to be a good year. All right, and we will stay on the topic of safeties right now. We have a new highest paid safety in the National Football League, and pretty surprising, I would say. I'd say surprising, right?
Yeah, no.
Buda Baker comes in, and he is getting some money, $59 million.
Yeah, the guaranteed hasn't come out because this news actually came out the day that we're recording. So we actually just put this in right before recording. 59 million is what we're hearing. About 14 million a year is the average for his contract. We don't know the guaranteed. This is a dude who's been a Pro Bowler the past 2 years.
He's 24 years old.
24 years old, star. He's been good for the Falcons. I don't think he's a household name yet, but he is a damn good safety, and people that pay attention, especially to the Falcon, or excuse me, to Arizona, are very excited right now. They know that he's worth it.
Well, yeah, Arizona doesn't have many key pieces on defense, and the ones they do in a Chandler Jones and a Buda Baker, you gotta lock those guys down. It is kind of weird to think that he's the highest paid safety, and he does not have an interception on his name.
Really? I didn't even know that.
It's a fun fact, didn't it? Adam Schefter tweeted that one out.
Really?
He does not have an interception.
I did not know that. That's crazy. So this does go back to your theory. The one thing you like on a defense is to have a stud at every level.
I love levels. Yes.
Chandler Jones, level 1. We got the star, the linebacker that they drafted,
Isaiah Simmons.
Thank you, I lost the name, and then now Buda Baker on the top. I mean, their defense is built the way you like to build defenses.
I like having the three-headed monster at levels on defense because then you can have above average pieces that, like, you know, the friendly contract veterans that you can come in and plug in and really have a solid core. Because sometimes doing what the Rams do and just getting all-star after all-star after all-star, it doesn't pair well.
Yeah.
And then you jeopardize your future. That's how I like to do it and still be cost efficient.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll move on. A little bit of sad news, but also I think good news. I mean, Ron Rivera was diagnosed with lymph node cancer, but it's very treatable, so that's good. If it had to be cancer, at least it's not something super serious. He is still going to be able to coach and everything. This is, you know, Ron Rivera, coach for Washington's. Jack Del Rio, the ex-head coach for the Raiders back in the day, about 3 or 4 years ago now, is the interim head coach for Ron Rivera. Sad, something to keep an eye on, something to think about. I don't think this affects the team that much. Do you?
I think if anything, and it could be a rally point.
It could be a galvanize.
It really could. It could be something that brings them together on a first-year coach, too, who sometimes some of the players that are in that organization have been there might be disassociated with. It's just like, oh, here comes the new guy and his guys and all that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something they can rally around because they really don't have a lot of good news going around them. And this isn't good news, but we're hoping that Ron can push through and the team can rally. And maybe they can grind it out together, and they'll all be better because of it.
Man, has there been a team in recent history that you can remember that has had more of a hit than the Washingtons?
It's pretty bad.
I mean, just at every single level. Oh yeah, you have a player that was accused of a violent crime against women. You have sexual misconduct accusations. You had to change your name. I mean, this team, and then now your coach got cancer. I mean, this team is cursed. I mean, God, that's just absolutely awful for Washington.
You agree with me now why I said I don't want Trevor Lawrence to go there?
Yeah, no, I get it.
He's the blessed one. I don't want him to go suffer.
The crazy thing is, they still have a really good defense. Like, Washington's defense is actually really good when you look at the names. Like, it's kind of exciting.
Defensive line.
And then, easily. I would say top 5. Ron Rivera's a great defensive head coach. I'm not worried about their defense. Look, their offense is going to struggle a little bit. They do have a star wide receiver in Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry. Their offensive line isn't good. Their running game's going to be a question mark. I actually am kind of excited about Bryce Love. I think he's going to kind of ball out a little bit this year. There's pieces around Washington from a football standpoint. It's just, I mean, you remember the rant. I posted on Twitter, got a lot of traction, the rant that I did about the owner, Zack Snyder, and all that. So I'm not super excited about, the Washington organization in general. But, I mean, their team isn't as bad as maybe the news is making it seem over the past
Well, they just have such a weight that is on them with having a roster that is below average.
It is below. It's absolutely below average.
Yeah,
exactly. It absolutely is, yeah.
They're going to end up being a top 5 pick, I believe.
Yeah.
And they're going to have some questions on what to do with it. And none of this bad news makes it any easier for them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'm glad you said that. I'm saying they have pieces to build around for the future. Is what I was. Yeah.
Well, that D line is Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen.
Hey, they have
who they just had, Chase Young. Yeah.
I mean, they have Alabama defensive line and then Chase Young on top of it. I mean, really, it's legit. It really is.
It is good. Oh, it's Dolphins are moving Tua through camp slowly. Will almost certainly start Fitzpatrick. How do you feel about that one?
So Miami, look, I think we knew this. I think when the Dolphins drafted Tua, they knew that they weren't going to rush it. Look, the Dolphins aren't going to be good this year. We all know that. Look, the Dolphins will probably be better than 5 wins. That's not saying a whole lot, but I mean, they won 5 games last year, and a couple of them they probably shouldn't have. I think they were like 4-1 in one-score games.
Yeah.
So they kind of got lucky a couple times there, but. You have your franchise quarterback, move him along slowly. There's no rush. I want to do what Denver did last year with Drew Lock. Mm-hmm. Start him like basically bury him on the depth chart for the first 12 weeks of the season, and then get him in there the last couple games, get him some reps when it doesn't really matter too much, get some excitement around his name, and then go into the next season, the 2021 season, with a lot of excitement. That's how I feel about Denver this year. I'm extremely excited about Denver. I think I'm going to be extremely excited about my Dolphins next year. But Fitzpatrick's a good placeholder. I'm excited.
Well, Fitzpatrick can mess around and win you some games too.
Yeah, he can.
No, I like that with the Drew Lock thing because we've seen Drew Lock in a very limited sample size.
Yeah.
But if you ask, I would say the average fan about if he's trending up or down, he's trending up.
Oh, absolutely.
And we've seen him in less than half a season. So if you're able to do that same thing with Tua and maintain his health, you get the buzz going, you get that confidence hype. Drew Lock last year just felt like he was sitting there vibing on the bench.
He had some swagger around him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're able to do that with Tua, why put him out there and have his record be 3 or 4 wins this year.
Yeah, that's not.
Don't do that to him.
And behind a still bad offensive line
Yes.
for the Dolphins. I mean, he's never played behind a bad offensive line. At least maybe he did in college or in high school. I don't know. But in college, I mean, he's always played around a pretty damn good offensive line. Yeah. So yeah, I don't
give y'all another year, build up that infrastructure of that line, get you some more weapons, which I think your weapons around him are pretty solid.
Yeah. As far we probably need a star running back next year. We probably need another receiver, maybe. We'll see what happens. Offensive line, defensive line needs help. But man, it's just one of those things where I just want to see progress. As a Dolphins fan, as just somebody who roots for pretty much every team, you want to see progress from these. This is a very young roster. You just want to see them have some confidence and move forward through the year. Not going to be good, but if they win 6 games, that's a damn good season for the Dolphins.
Well, that's how you have to go into it because you can't expect them to be just straight up playoff team with Tua right now.
Let's move on to a different Florida team. There have been reports. So this is kind of a weird story where there were reports that it was happening. I think this was actually Thursday, right after we posted the last week's podcast. There were reports that came out. Yannick Ngakoue is going to get traded. There were names out there. Ian Rappaport said Raiders having interest, and all this happened, and then nothing happened. The GM Dave Caldwell comes out and says that they are not close to a deal yet. So I don't know what happened. Conversations must have been going on, and then things fell through one way or the other. Beyond that, I just don't know what happened. Nobody does until everything comes out. But Yannick Ngakoue, look, he's not reporting to camp. He is waiting for a trade. He's string hung the Jaguars organization, forcing their hand to trade him, and then forcing the Jaguars to be in this awkward position. And we talked about it a lot on this podcast. So if you're a long-time listener, you've heard our thoughts on this. But you're forced in a position where you want to get available value, as much value as you can, but you don't have a lot of leverage to get that value. I mean, you just don't.
Yannick is guaranteed floor price a first-round pick.
Easily.
That's guaranteed. There is a chance that Jacksonville might be able to twist some arms and somehow find themselves in a 2 first-round pick sort of type of thing. I mean, they could do a first and a second, no problem with future picks. And I think if you're a team looking to acquire this, that's what you want. Yannick Ngakoue has been buried by Jacksonville just not being a powerhouse team and having superstar names across the board. But if you put Yannick on Dallas, if Yannick's been on Dallas, everyone knows who this guy is.
Everyone knows his name.
He kind of reminds me of Danielle Hunter with the Vikings. These are unsung heroes of the defensive line who are top 10 Pro Bowl caliber guys.
Yeah.
That you should give up a first-round pick immediately, especially if you're one of these competing teams that's in the back half of the first. Send it out. Yeah. Get him. Sign him.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And look, we've beaten this subject to a head. I mean, what are your thoughts about the Raiders coming out as a name? Is there anything there you think?
If there's something there, I mean, they would have
need help.
They would have a pretty good D-line. Max Crosby really stepped up, hoping that Clelin Ferrell can really kind of go into his own, but he hasn't yet. If you're able to get Yannick, I mean, you got pieces.
Yeah, man. I was gonna say. I mean, look, Max Crosby was what, the 3rd, 4th round pick that looked like the first rounder, and Colin Farrell was the first rounder that looked like the 3rd or 4th round pick last year. I do think they need another piece. We'll see what happens with Farrell this year. I think he's gonna be kind of a high floor. Oops, sorry guys. I think he's gonna be kind of a high floor type of guy, one of those things, but not a super high ceiling. I would love to see Yannick on the Jaguars. I think that would really, the Raiders. I think that would really help their team. But man, here's my thing. Here's where my head goes. We just talked about Clowney a second ago. Mm-hmm. Would you rather trade multiple picks for Yannick Ngakoue or just sign Jadeveon? Yeah, exactly. Right. And look, they're different types of players. That's absolutely fair. I'm not comparing them apples to apples, but I mean they play a similar position.
But I mean when you're looking at the value that you would have to give up and I mean jeopardize your future because that's what it is. Because if these guys don't hit and what if Yannick doesn't like where he goes again? He didn't like Jacksonville. Jacksonville's a pretty nice town. Doesn't like the organization for whatever reasons, just like all the other athletes do for some reason. But there's a chance if you go send these picks and trade them, and he doesn't want to sign a deal, there you go. You just got rid of him for a 1 year.
Yeah, no,
have fun.
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, and look, I think regardless of the comparison from Clowney to Yannick Ngakoue, because they're not the same player, and I know that, you can't tell me anybody that is looking at defensive line, anybody that's considering, any team that's considering trading for Yannick Ngakoue has to look at Jadeveon Clowney too, has to have done their homework on him as well. Mm-hmm. And I just don't understand how you could make that deal to give up multiple picks when there's a guy on free agency right now, and that has to hurt Ngakoue's trade value. I mean, I just can't imagine it doesn't.
Yeah, and that's just what hurts the Jaguars. They're always able to find the talent and lose the talent.
Yeah.
And then it's bad. We'll move on with another defensive lineman
Yeah.
who is having some problems with his team. It's Melvin Ingram, but it's kind of turned in their favor. It's gone the way that both of us have agreed that we like seeing these things unfold.
Yeah.
Melvin Ingram was holding out. He is now doing a hold-in where he's at least going through team drills, going through walkthroughs, being at team meetings while both parties try to work out a deal.
Yeah.
And this is good because you protect your player, you protect your star. You're showing him that, yes, we're willing to work with you on this. But the player is also reciprocating and saying, I have a job to do. I'm here and I'm going to work on it.
Yeah. No, I actually love that. I think it's a smart move. I think he must have had a conversation with one of the higher ups and said, hey, we're going to try and get this done.
Yeah.
You have to be in camp or it's not happening. Like, it's one of those things where, I mean, and this is what, like, look, last year Melvin Gordon held out and he got absolutely nothing, and he lost a lot of money trying to hold out and get a big contract from the Chargers. Yes, that's a running back. Yes, that's a little bit different than the value position than the very important position that Melvin Ingram plays. But I mean, I think the Chargers have shown that as an organization, they're not going to give in to player demands, and they are going to force their players to, like, if you don't want to play, you don't want to play.
Honestly, that really worked in their favor.
Yeah.
It really did, because
absolutely.
a lot of times you see the players actually come up on the upper hand, and, situation case by case, it's all different. Like, I'm not saying, bad on the players all the time.
Yeah, of course.
But for the Chargers and the way that the future outlooks, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They showed kind of a zero tolerance type of thing. It's like, if you think that you're bigger than this entire team, you go do you, and then you can go somewhere else next year, waste a year of your career, and probably take a dollar hit somewhere.
Yeah.
Or you can just come play with us and we'll work something out. Yeah. Solid.
And it's a kind of the same thing as far as positional value, or not positional value, but the strength of the position. The Chargers looked at the running back position and said, yeah, we got guys behind you. We like Justin Jefferson enough, and we're really good with Austin Eckler as our starter. Yeah. And they said, we'll run it. And it worked out really well for him. And then, you look at the defensive line position.
You just paid Joey Bosa.
Yeah, they just paid Joey Bosa. They have Joey Bosa. They've got a lot of young draft picks on that interior defensive line. Hopefully they hit. We'll see. I mean, it's kind of a remain to be seen kind of situation. Melvin Ingram, wants to get paid, and I know the Chargers want to pay him, but they're not in a situation where they absolutely have to. Like, they'll survive. They'll still have a scary defensive line without Melvin Ingram.
I think they need to pay him.
I do too,
but it doesn't need to set the record again. Like, that's probably where it's at. I mean, he looked across from him and saw Joey getting paid, and he was like, okay. Yeah. Let's tie it or re-up it, and it's like,
and it's like, that's not
I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But we'll move on to Vic Fangio. We're talking about the offensive side of the ball for Vic Fangio when, he's a defensive head coach.
Weird.
Does not plan to assign a running back. And look, so he has Melvin Gordon, who we just talked about. Obviously, that's the connector. I should have used that instead. We got Melvin Gordon. We have Philip Lindsay. Apparently, it's going to be a 50-50 backfield. Do you believe this? Is this coach speak? What do you think?
Yeah, I think fresh legs. I think running back by committee. I think it is I think it's just the way that the league is going nowadays. We're seeing a dying breed and a workhorse back, and it is more cost efficient to do the running back by committee approach. And stats can also show you that it is sometimes more effective. I mean, look at some of the most potent offenses right now. And if you have two caliber guys of Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay that you can run off of each other and feed the hot hand and just bust it out here and there. Yeah, it's good.
And they're different types of players as well. But I mean, we both know Gordon can catch the ball pretty well out of the backfield, just like Philip Lindsay. And look, Philip Lindsay last year proved he could run in the middle. I mean, he did. Look, he's not gonna last as long as a Melvin Gordon. Obviously, his body just isn't built that way. But I mean, he has some burst and he has some explosion up the middle. He can run over people. He's a bowling ball down in the middle of the field. So yeah, I actually believe it. I think fantasy value. I think fantasy value just kills both of them. Like, I'm not looking for either of these guys in fantasy unless the other one goes down, and that's just an unfortunate thing to say, but it just is what it is.
I would take Philip Lindsay. I don't know where he's trending off the top of my head, but I know that Melvin's in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah.
That's hard to do for a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Philip Lindsay's in the 6th or 7th, 50-50 split. There's something there.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
We'll bring it to my home team, the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes.
And a little bit of bad news with Dalvin. They kind of called off contract talks right now. He was doing a mini holdout, decided to swap it to a hold-in. And here we are now. They said that they're just going to go ahead and just run it week 1, and they will hope to resume contract talks at another point in the season. And that scares me because he has a very, I'm trying to think, like, his price. I mean, his value to our offense, we can't run it without him. I truly think.
So we might disagree on this a little bit. Look,
so you're okay if we lose him and run Alexander Madison?
I love Dalvin Cook. I don't want to. Look, first of all, he's a Florida Stater, so I loved him then. Coming out of college, he had some off the field issues, but as a running back, he was among the top running backs coming out of that class, and that was a loaded class. But I think it is fair to point out that Alexander Madison did well last year.
He did.
He was not a bad running back, and he had to come in and start for Dalvin Cook in times, and he performed as well. I mean, I'm not going to say he performed better, but he performed as well at times. There wasn't a point where I looked at Alexander Madison and said, man, Dalvin Cook could have gotten 20 when Alexander Madison got 10. I never saw that on film. Maybe there were points. I'm not saying there wasn't. Obviously, Dalvin Cook is the better running back. I think we both agree on that. I'm not super scared if Alexander Madison is your starter next year. And you would have to draft a younger guy behind him.
It's a step down, though.
It absolutely is.
And in taking a step down when we really can't afford that because we're still not known as an elite team.
Yeah.
We're known as a good team that can get to the playoffs. If we lose our Pro Bowl running back, that really does affect the offense, especially I'm going off of last year. I don't know what we're going to look like this year without Kevin Stefanski running it and stuff, but we got to have Dalvin. I think so.
I absolutely agree. My biggest thing with this is, first of all, you go down the list, and we talked about it so much on this podcast, we're not going to go back through the list, but if you go down the list of running backs that got paid, the team lost on almost every deal in the past couple of years. If you look at history, I mean, the team has lost every time they pay the big star running back.
When you go to that third or fourth year, it's like, they're not even around.
You combine that with the fact that Dalvin Cook really has only had one season of success for the Vikings. Every other year he's been hurt.
I get that.
I mean, so look, I understand the value for Dalvin Cook. He is an incredibly great player.
$13 million.
$13 million feels like a lot for me. It does. Yeah, it feels
I think that's being fair.
Yeah, and it's totally fair based on his talent. I don't agree. And look, I always pay the player. I always want to see if
I pay him 13 because I think, I don't know. I'm trying to think. What's McCaffrey at right now? 16?
Yeah.
Saquon's going to go above that. He's not above that level.
No.
What's Derrick Henry at? 12?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe 12, 11.
Yeah.
11 to 13 is where I think we have our range of Dalvin.
Yeah.
If Dalvin wants 15 up, you're right. He's going to walk. It all depends on the price, but he does have a certain value that dollar signs transcend when it comes to our offense.
Yeah.
Because I think if you take him away this year, we're an 8-win, 9-win team.
And look, I get that. I always look at the teams that haven't. I mean, we just talked about the Chargers who didn't back down from the running back.
Yeah.
It just seems like more often than not, when you kind of just you pretty much force the running back to take the value of the running back position and deal with it, it usually works out. I mean, look, we're gonna find out if Zeke was worth it. We're gonna find out if Derrick Henry was worth it. I think both of them were, and I think Dalvin Cook could be.
I don't think Derrick Henry's that bad. I think Derrick Henry actually humbled himself, and not humbled himself, but he took the team-friendly deal. And if Dalvin's willing to do something like that, then that's an absolute win.
No, I do agree with that. I think it was a team-friendly deal for the amount of money he took compared to the amount of offense that he brings to the table. And I totally get that side of it. I'm just saying, for the running back position, we know how injury-prone Dalvin Cook is at this point. We know how, he's kind of a smaller guy. He's built the same way that a Devontae Freeman was. Freeman didn't finish his second contract, so I wonder if Dalvin Cook will finish his. But at the same time, he's had injuries, but he hasn't played a lot of NFL games. Because he's had, ACL, which you come back from, you're fine. Things like that. So maybe not as much wear and tear. I don't know, man. I get where you're coming from.
You're right in saying the years that he has played and hasn't played, especially if he does the holdout, and a lot of teams don't like guys who do that necessarily. Yeah. Then when you add on the limited film over his 3 or 4 year career, he's been banged up. I
think Cook knows that he needs to come out. He's going to have every opportunity to be the star running back. He knows that he needs to come out and perform, play through injury, because he got hurt last year too. He hasn't had a fully healthy season. He hasn't had 16 games. It's hard to have 16 games as an NFL running back. I understand that, but I think he knows that he has to come out, play every game, play hard, rack up 1,300 yards rushing, and then he'll probably get a big deal next year.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense. Yeah,
$12 million, that's good. $13 million, I'm okay with.
Yeah, let's move on to Cam Newton, another one of your guys.
Hey.
Look, it's over. The quarterback battle is done, and look, maybe we're calling it too early, but I'm going to call it right now. Cam Newton is becoming the clear starter in camp. There was Jarrett Stidham was admitted to the hospital last week with tests on his leg, came back negative. Not a huge issue there, but he has outperformed Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer. Obviously, we knew Brian Hoyer wasn't really going to be in that conversation, but he's outperforming Jarrett Stidham. There were reports late last week that maybe they do a 2 quarterback quarterback set. I think that's just, I think it's just coach speak, you know, kind of giving Jarrett Stidham a hand, you know, leg up, I guess. But it's over, man. Cam Newton's the starter. He's going to be a starter for the rest of the season unless he gets hurt.
You see my smile?
Yeah, of course.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely happy for him because I would like to say that I didn't think it was that much of a battle going into this. The way that I value Cam compared to a Jarrett Stidham, Jarrett's still got time.
Yeah.
Jarrett, you know, it would be a dishonor to Cam, and we would know that you can stick a fork in him because he's done if Cam could not beat out Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Cam needs to not only he doesn't need to barely win this battle.
Yeah.
He needs to do exactly what he's doing now and put it to an end and show that he's still got gas in the tank. He can still go back to that same MVP caliber player that I think that he can.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Listen, man, I'm gonna give you your props because when it came out that there was you know conversation about Jarrett Stidham could still start and all that, you immediately said bullshit, not gonna happen, no fucking way. That was pretty much your quote. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like not on the podcast.
Not that exactly, but I knew that Cam. I mean, just compare the two of them when you look. When you look at a physical trait, when you look at an arm. You know, Jarrett Stidham is more your typical, what we've seen in the past 20 years, Tom Brady-like quarterback when it comes to being able to play pro style. But this Cam Newton, if he is healthy again, people are forgetting. I know that it was 4 years ago that we saw the MVP status. 2 years ago, he's still a great quarterback.
Yeah.
3 years ago, elite quarterback, top 5. We're 2 years removed from his greatness, and those 2 years were separated because of injuries and him trying to battle through and hide it because he knows that the NFL's a business, and that spot gets gone like that. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I totally agree. I wanted to give you a little bit of props for just like completely throwing that out of the conversation.
It's a homer take. I love Cam, and I will love him to the end of time.
I don't think it's a homer take. I think you're being accurate about his talent. I mean, he's never not been a top 10 fantasy quarterback when he's healthy throughout the season.
Yes,
he's never not been. I mean, look, we're talking about a former NFL MVP that has not lost the talent. He's just been hurt. And then we're talking about a team that is notorious among any other team in the NFL over the past 20 years. The Patriots have done more to form their offense around the players they have on the field. I mean, more than any other team, you see them completely adjust their offense to the talent they have on the field and defense. On both
if
sides.
A guy has a strength, they will blow it up.
Exactly.
If a guy has a weakness, they will be able to find ways to hide that and cover it up.
Yeah.
And I mean, like we said with Tom Brady, because we got a lot of flack for that and saying, because I agree with you. I mean, I stood by you and saying Tom Brady's not the same quarterback that he was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Tom Brady is a great quarterback still in the league for me. Yeah. I know you may feel a little different.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. Yeah.
If there ever was a weakness, and I'm not saying you can find all of them on film, if there was, Belichick is so good, you're not going to know.
Yeah.
I promise that's the case.
Yeah, he hid the weakness as well last year. I mean, he turned his team into a run-first, defensive-heavy team that really just didn't take any chances. And then obviously you have, the GOAT at quarterback who, even if his arm isn't all the way there, he's still the smartest quarterback on the field, still the smartest guy on the field. He's going to be able to pick you apart from that standpoint and, be smart with the ball and not lose it, interceptions, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I thought I'd give you a little bit of props there. Let's move into injuries, right? So we're going to kind of go down the list, a little bit of rapid fire, just keep you guys up to date with the injuries. Then we're going to do hamstring watch, and we'll go through that. The biggest one that happened this week, Grant Delpit. That's sad. The Browns safety suffered an Achilles injury. He is done for the year. He was the rookie, I think, second round pick.
Second round pick.
Unfortunate for him. He is done. What do you think?
I just don't like seeing that. The Browns always take guys that fall in the draft, like Greedy Williams a few years ago.
Yeah.
He kind of was first round hype, really hyped up, went in the second round. He's still on the team doing really well. And Grant Delpit was in that same situation where he was, before he played last season, he was a top 10 pick. He played last season, didn't really work out as well. Yeah. And he fell to the second, and now he tore his Achilles. Yeah. And it's like, damn,
it's unfortunate. He hope he comes back from it.
Exactly. We'll move on. Lamar Jackson, Marcus Peters, and Justice Hill are all dealing with soft tissue injuries. It's probably, I'm going to say nothing.
Yeah, no, I
absolutely agree. This is one of those things where they put them down and it just rides it out.
One of those things worth mentioning just because, I mean, that's the star of their defense, star of their offense, and then, a depth running back piece. Mm-hmm. So worth mentioning for the Ravens. I don't think that is anything either. Moving on, Mike Williams. Look, so he kind of dodged a bullet, but also he's still questionable for week 1. Suffered a sprained AC joint. People were worried when he landed hard in practice, and people were worried he broke his collarbone right off the bat. Did not break his collarbone, so sprained AC joint. It could have been worse is what I'm saying. Yeah. But man, for a receiver who has struggled with injuries throughout his NFL career, this is just another setback for Mike Williams, and you just wonder. I still believe the talent is there for a breakout season, and I was close to giving him a breakout season this year projection wise. It's super unfortunate to see another injury, another setback for the Chargers receiver.
Yeah, got to stay healthy. I saw something today saying that he could miss 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, and that's from right now.
That means KJ Hill stepping up.
KJ Hill, look, I haven't heard a lot from KJ Hill out of camp. I mean, there's a lot of questions about the depth behind Keenan Allen, and I don't know. It could be KJ Hill. We liked him coming out.
What's weird is that at one point I thought they had too many wide receivers.
Yeah, I know,
really
right?
did.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I thought it was going to be a great 1-2 punch this year. Look, we'll see. It's nothing serious. He'll probably miss 1 or 2 weeks of the NFL season, most likely. That would be my expectation because we're what, 3 weeks away from the start of the season.
Exactly.
So yeah, 1 to 2 weeks makes sense. Moving on, Chase Young has missed time with a hip flexor. Yeah. Washington says they're being overly cautious. We'll see what happens there. I don't know. But yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on as well. Just a little note, keep in the back of your mind. If Chase Young misses, that defensive line takes a huge hit. We'll see.
You can't blame him for being overly cautious with the number 2 pick. You want to make sure that guy's well protected.
Yeah, absolutely.
David Njoku re-injures the same wrist that kept him sidelined last year, and that was something that lingered on for 10 games throughout the year.
Yeah, missed the rest of the season. That is not what he needs.
It hurts the trade value for the Browns overall because now if you're a team, it's definitely going to lower what you would acquire for David Njoku. I don't know.
I've stood by. I don't think the Browns have any interest in trading him. I know that was news that we talked about earlier in the offseason. I've stood by the fact that the Browns are going to play a lot of 21 personnel. They are going to utilize both their tight ends, and I think David Njoku was going to be a big part of that. He has been relegated to 3rd on the depth chart. I don't even remember the name of the number 2 guy off the top of my head, but he was relegated to 3rd on the depth chart. This is not a serious injury, but I mean, it's just definitely something to look at, keep an eye on because it is a re-injury of the same thing.
Because if it's a re-injury,
yeah, exactly. But it's not as serious as the first, wrist injury. So that's worth mentioning. Yeah, we'll see what happens. David Njoku going down to Bustville. I mean, very, very close. Former first-round pick.
Yeah, because he was a first-round pick.
Yeah, it's getting scary with that first-round tight end. First-round tight end is very hard to hit on. It seems like O.J. Howard was a miss. David Njoku seems like a miss. Yeah, Evan Ingram hit, I feel like. But, I mean, even him, he's been injured.
I can't remember the last one that has actually hit the ceiling that they are hyped up to be whenever they come out.
And, we have 2 from the 2019 draft with Hawkinson. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. But, I mean, it's very weird. We haven't seen a lot of hits in the tight end department. Moving on, Jack Doyle, another tight end, misses time with a neck injury, which is so scary with a neck injury. This was the Colts starting tight end. Trey Burton is taking first-team reps in his absence. Trey Burton, the guy who I was championing that when he went to the Bears. Look, I believed in that offense at the time. I was very wrong. I believed in Matt Nagy. That was a huge miss by a lot of people, and I was one of them. Trey Burton might get a chance to start again in the NFL. We'll see what happens.
Is there something to it fantasy-wise for Trey Burton?
Man, it could be.
I'm talking late.
Yeah, I don't think he's draftable. Maybe. I don't know. If you're in a 20-round draft, maybe with the 20th pick, you take a shot on him and he's your first guy that you cut. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Wait to see him ball out week 1, and then it's like, okay, now I see that he's here.
Yeah, look, he did nothing with the Bears when he had a lot of opportunity, so I just don't know what I expect from Trey Burton at this point. And look, he's never really been a star. Like, he's a guy who flashed in Philadelphia a couple years, but his greatest claim to fame is one throw.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a very important
Super Bowl
throw.
It's a throw.
Yeah. And that just is what it is. I don't know. I don't see a whole lot of fantasy value. I thought Jack Doyle was a sneaky pick until he hurt his neck. So
yeah, and the neck is not one of the things you want to bang up as a tight end.
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift sidelined with a leg injury. And Detroit fans, you should be very upset. This is probably not going to amount to anything, but with a guy who in college was banged up a lot, and when you look at your other running back, who was also banged up a lot, it's not what you want to see.
Yeah, I'm nervous about the Lions' backfield.
I'm staying away from both of them.
Yeah, I am too.
And I love Kerryon.
I am too. Away. Look, we've talked about this. I think we're actually going to talk about this again later on. We'll get to word from Cam. But I do believe in the talent of Kerryon Johnson, and I believe in the talent of DeAndre Swift. But I mean, we'll just see what happens, man. I don't know. I'm staying away from both of them. DeAndre Swift is being drafted too high for me anyway. Kerryon Johnson is essentially free when you're talking about a running back that could start. If he's healthy, we'll see.
Well, when Kerryon was healthy, it was a great running back.
He's a great running back.
We're on going on the third season now where he is still having injury issues. Yeah.
Absolutely. Dallas Goedert, day-to-day with a thumb hairline fracture, should be ready week 1. Another guy, this is your second tight end with Philadelphia. Look, I understand that number 2 tight end isn't a name that you really worry about too much. Philadelphia Eagles is the exception. They run a lot of 2 tight end set. They love Dallas Goedert up there.
He's really good.
He is fantasy relevant, I'm telling you guys, especially in the tight end market. He is absolutely fantasy relevant. Yep. Worth noting, worth knowing that he has that injury. Just a name to know.
Miles Sanders, we will stay on the same team. He is week to week with a lower body injury, and that is also one of the fantasy breakout stars that we're supposed to see for Philadelphia.
We buried the lead on this one because that's a big injury.
It's a huge one.
We don't know exactly what it is. All we know is lower body. Man, that could be anything. That could be, I just don't know. It could be hamstring. It could be something even more serious than that. I'm nervous about Miles Sanders. When I saw that,
that's a guy who was attached to the second round in most fantasy leagues.
For borderline first, second round, absolutely. And he's a guy that like we're in a keeper league, right? There's not a lot of depth. He's a guy I would have considered with the 7th pick after the top running backs go, just because I need a running back. You know what I mean?
Got to have a running back.
Yeah. So it's just it's so scary. I have not adjusted my rankings for this injury, but man, I would consider putting him down because if he's going to be out, the first start of the season, that's
Enter Boston Scott.
Enter Boston Scott, who did well last year. I know we all shit on Boston Scott, but he did do well last year. He ran well for a guy who's has pretty much no fantasy buzz. He's worth knowing, especially if you're in a league where you've already drafted.
Yeah.
If you've already drafted and you have Miles Sanders on your team, pick up Boston Scott. That's an insurance piece that you need.
Now, because
absolutely.
Next thing you know, it's going to cost you your entire fab budget, or your waiver wire position ain't going to work out, and you're going to lose him.
Yeah, because right now he's just week to week. We don't know, but shit, if week 1 starts creeping up and he's still on that injury report, you're going to start to get real nervous. But we will close it out with Tyrell Williams. He has a torn labrum for the shoulder. He's going to try and play through it. This is a depth wide receiver piece for the Raiders. I just thought it was worth mentioning because he was in line with that starting lineup, and there's a lot of questions for that Raiders wide receiver core. You have Ruggs, you have Edwards, who I believe is going to start. You have the guy at Clemson. I can't remember. Hunter Renfrow. Thank you. Williams, and then Tyrell Williams was supposed to be your other speed piece.
I've heard so many good things about all of them, minus Hunter Renfrow. Not saying I've heard bad about him, but he just we know what his value.
We know exactly what he is.
Yeah, but I've heard Ruggs in the AB role. I've heard Bryan Edwards is stepping up and might surpass and be the number 1. Tyrell is carrying off, taking off where he left off last year, but they do a really good job of hyping them all up and keeping it kind of hush-hush whenever we really know what's happening.
Yeah, we'll see. But Tyrell, it honestly, I think it just opens up an opportunity, even more opportunity for Ruggs and Bryan Edwards. I keep doing that. Who, are the rookie receivers that are going to come in this year.
Yeah. We'll move it on to hamstring watch. This is the injuries here. We'll get through this one a little quicker, and I'll kind of stop once we hit like big ones. Brandon Ayuk, he has a little hamstring tweak. T. Higgins, hamstring tweak. That mentions A.J. Green as well while we're there. And Tyreek Hill, that was a minor tweak. But if you're in the first round of your fantasy league and all the running backs are gone, are you really that confident in Tyreek Hill right now?
Tyreek Hill is my number 3 wide receiver in fantasy, right? Yeah. So once you have your top 2 guys, Tyreek Hill is somebody you consider as the first or probably a second. You're taking Michael Thomas first, but if you're going wide receiver in the first round, Michael Thomas is already gone.
Yeah, it's Tyreek.
You're considering Tyreek, right?
Exactly.
That's scary. It's scary.
It's one of those things that whenever you're a speedster like that,
especially
I know it's the same thing for all these NFL athletes, but fast guys, he does 1-9 go route and
pulls it bad.
He kind of just held up,
Yeah.
There you go.
See him grab the back of your leg, and it's over.
Yeah,
it's over.
It definitely it's scary.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning. T. Higgins is back at practice. We talked about his hamstring last week. That's definitely scary. But moving on, Darrell Henderson called a mild injury originally. Rams are now saying that they hope he's ready for week 1. I think that's super interesting. This is like the other big one. Darrell Henderson is considered the starter in LA right now for the Rams. And if he has this hamstring injury, they went from saying, "Oh, it's fine, he'll be okay," now they're saying, "Oh, well, we hope he's ready for week 1." look, that means he's not getting reps. That means Cam Akers, whose talent I 100% believe in,
gets the chance, he's gonna remain.
He's gonna run away with it. Yeah, no pun intended. Yeah, this could kill Darrell Henderson's chances to start the season. It really could. Very, very interesting. Something to keep a close eye on, which we certainly will.
Denzel Mims, New York Jets. He has missed 10 days of camp with a hamstring injury, and I haven't heard that it's getting better with him either.
It's scary.
Jamison Crowder's trending towards being the wide receiver 1. Yeah. That is a fantasy name to know around round 7, 8, 9, and 10. Get ready because he's going to have a high target workload. Coaches are speaking highly of him. When it comes to Denzel, though, I'm worried about him too. And he was one of my favorite targets because he had one of the highest contested rate catches in college, and it was just like
on
the Jets could really use him.
Yeah, on a team that, I mean, you assume he's starting week 1, day 1.
Exactly.
But moving on, Curtis Samuel, T.Y. Hilton, K.J. Hamler all have been sidelined with hamstring injuries to varying degrees. T.Y. Hilton, I think, is back on the field now. That's worth mentioning. Also, if you'd like a T.Y. Hilton jersey, sign up, leave a comment, like, all that good stuff, subscribe, and you will get a T.Y. Hilton jersey in the mail if you win the contest.
Yep.
But those are the same hamstring names to watch. We are going to keep doing that every week. We're going to let you know when they're back in camp. We're going to let you know when they're fine, and we're going to let you know if any other names pop up on this list. This happens so often, especially this year where guys probably haven't been able to get out and train the way football players should as much this year. Mm-hmm. I think hamstrings are being a little bit, are happening a little bit more. It's just a very, very dangerous injury that really kills fantasy value sometimes because they're just out. They'll be back for a couple games and then they're out. It kills your season. It just does every year. We'll move on to word from camp.
Damian Harris is emerging as the best back in camp, according to a Patriots beat writer, Jeff Howe. Rushed for 12 yards and 4 attempts in his rookie year. He was a third-round pick, so really wasn't looking that good, and he was kind of injury prone, wasn't he? I mean, he was kind of
he struggled last year.
Got buried in the Patriots running back by committee thing. Yeah,
but I mean, year 2, he's showing up. This is a guy. I mean, look, we're talking about a third-round pick last year. Yep. Not nothing, especially as a running back. Showing up as the best running back in camp, and you guys know that the Patriots do not care about draft value. They don't care if Sony Michel is healthy and ready to go.
Doesn't
Just
matter.
because he's a first-round pick does not mean he's going to get the touches. Damian Harris, I've adjusted my rankings. I've seen too many reports of positive things from Damian Harris this offseason. He's my number 1 running back for the Patriots this year. Granted, Patriots running backs are never fun to have because you can never assess
you can get this guy for free though.
Yeah, essentially for free. Yeah. And he could have running back 3 value for sure. That's definitely a good name to know. The Atlantic's Mark Colby reports that James Washington's skill set is invaluable to the Pittsburgh offense. Washington is going pretty much undrafted in fantasy. Deontay Johnson there is going in the 8th round, and Juju Smith is going in the 3rd round. So if you want a piece of the Washington offense, the cheapest way to get it is James Washington, who's having a really good camp. They're talking about his speed as a game changer. This is a guy who was drafted, I believe, in the 3rd round 2 years ago. Deontay Johnson was a 2nd rounder last year, who I actually am higher on. I still believe in Deontay Johnson over James Washington, but we'll see, man. There's a lot of hype around James Washington right now.
I heard a little bit of hype. I'll keep it with Pittsburgh around Chase Claypool.
I know
you weren't big on him.
He's getting a lot of hype as well. You're
Eric
absolutely
Ebron
right.
went to Twitter and said, man, Chase Claypool is something different. His it's the physical ability, and that's what we knew he was going to be. It's going to be hard to find some field time for him, though, behind Juju, Deontay, and James. So.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. That's kind of my big thing on why I'm not super high on Chase Claypool this year. Yeah. Look, I guess I was wrong. The Pittsburgh Steelers always seem to find these great wide receivers in the mid-rounds. I was not high on Chase Claypool, but if Pittsburgh, I trust Pittsburgh's, scouting more than mine, honestly, when it comes to that kind of thing. I feel like I'm right a lot, but I'm not right all the time. So it's looking like I'm going to be wrong on the Chase Claypool take. That's okay. But this year, for fantasy,
that's okay.
Not super excited. Yeah,
that's
we'll see.
Okay. Here's one that we all know is going to be a big name whenever it comes to the wide receiver game. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb drawing rave reviews. That should surprise nobody. He's going to line up in the slot. Randall Cobb there it was over 80 targets.
Yeah, 83 targets last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is super exciting. If he's lining up in the slot, this could be a sneaky guy. And look, I understand he's a big name. He's the 3rd receiver taken in the draft last year.
Yeah.
He was my number 1 receiver coming into the class. This is a dude who a lot of people know, but they also know that the Cowboys depth chart is loaded, and he might not get a lot of playing time. But if he's going to be in the slot, that speaks to what built in. I would say a minimum 60, 65 targets. That's built in. I really feel confident saying that.
I mean, you can't beat the value there. I do think he might be overdrafted because of the name.
Yeah,
because
that's possible.
We still have to go off of the fact that Amari is there, the number one, and Michael Gallup is really doing his job there in Dallas. So with the targets, I am more drawn to a Justin Jefferson or Jerry Jeudy. Yeah. Not saying that CD is not as talented as these receivers. It's a situational decision.
Yeah, and look, the real thing is we talk about all the rookie wide receivers. There's so many this year. There's so many to be excited about. It does not happen that often that rookie wide receivers bust out in fantasy. Yeah. You get exciting years. You get. There's a lot of guys that are coming into year two that had good years last year, but they didn't help you a whole lot with fantasy. They didn't win your league. Terry McLaurin was really the only guy who had legitimate fantasy value, and AJ last year. Yeah, and 2 is a lot more than the average. And so we might have 2 or 3 this year. It's not going to be a lot. We'll see what happens. If I had to put money on it, I would probably say CD and Justin Jefferson would be my pick for the 2. If I only had to pick 2. Mm-hmm. 2 rookie wide receivers that could have some legitimate fantasy value, but we'll see. Like you said, he's buried in that depth chart.
He is.
Jim something, I don't know. I'm not even gonna try. Oswarski. Yeah, a beat reporter for the Packers is saying that they expect major usage from AJ Dillon to start the season.
Ooh, be scared, Aaron Jones fantasy holders.
Yeah.
We saw it last year with Matt LaFleur because I was an Aaron Jones fantasy holder whenever they were running Jamal Williams, I believe. Yep. It was a 50-50 share until that week 7 where he got knocked out.
Way overused Jamal Williams.
They did.
Way
I don't know
overused Jamal
why
Williams.
They deny themselves the talent of Aaron Jones, because when Aaron Jones was out there, he's able to take the work off of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is no longer the focal point of that offense for the first time in 10 years.
Yeah. Look, I absolutely agree. Yeah. I don't understand it.
A.J. Dillon looks like a damn boss, though. I've seen him.
He does.
He's huge.
His hamstrings are bigger than our arms put together. I mean,
Jordan Love's look like this mic stand. It's pretty bad.
Listen.
I saw a picture of both of them side by side. I know. And Jordan Love you got to hit the room. A.J. Dillon,
he needs to work on his legs. You
can cut half of it off and give it to Jordan Love. Fine. Yeah.
Oh, man. But, yeah, I'm excited. Look, A.J. Dillon's a sneaky pick to have late in drafts. They are not going to give the ball to Aaron Jones completely. Aaron Jones is kind of
buried. They just don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen, I don't think. But moving on to another running back who has some questionable, usage in fantasy. Coach Ron Rivera says Bryce Love can be an every down back in this league. Look, Ron Rivera is notorious for having a lot of coach speak. This is probably coach speak, but it's worth mentioning. He is taking second-team reps behind Adrian Peterson, obviously. Look, there was a lot of buzz about Antonio Gibson, and there wasn't much on this podcast because I think both of us from the beginning said that Bryce Love was going to be the guy. I'm standing by it, and it's looking like we're going to be the ones that are on the right side of history on that one.
Yeah.
Look, Antonio Gibson's going to be a good player. He's going to get his chance. I think Bryce Love is next in line to be that starter. I think he's the fantasy guy to have for this Washington backfield.
I think Bryce Love with a Ron Rivera type thing too. It kind of smells like a Walmart CMC to me.
Honestly, he's off-brand
Christian McCaffrey.
Yes,
and he's only off-brand just because you don't know his name yet. That's why we say that. He is talented enough to do it, and we know that Adrian Peterson is not going to be a 1-3 every single down back. He's going to be able to get some good carries, but Bryce is going to be able to come in. He's going to get the job, and if he's able to make stuff happen with his chance, he hasn't gotten that yet. Yeah, I say run it.
Yeah, and look, we're not talking about a guy who's just coming out of nowhere. This is a guy who was a 4th-round pick in the NFL draft in 2019.
Would have been a second.
Exactly. After tearing his ACL in his last college game. So he didn't get to do any of the offseason stuff. The team drafted Bryce Love knowing they weren't going to get to use him his rookie year.
Yeah.
Still took him in the 4th round, which might have been high.
Well, and as a running back, that's impressive too, because that's a position where if they're injured, it's like, oh, just go get another guy. They're so interchangeable.
Incredible.
Someone took a shot on him in the 4th round.
Yeah.
No, there's potential there.
A lot of potential.
Yes.
I mean, you base that. I mean, he has a lot of draft value just based on that alone, in my opinion.
He's solid. We'll go to a guy that I'm really big on, and you're wearing the right team's jersey with the Falcons. Hayden Hurst is expected to have an every down role, according to Kelsey Conway of Falcons.com. And that is what I was thinking was going to happen. If he is able to step into that role of Austin Hooper, we might truly see the potential of the 1st-round pick.
Yeah, look, so if you look at Austin Hooper last year, he had a pretty awesome season. I think, I don't have it all up for me right now. I think he had like over 80 targets, 80 receptions, and just under 1,000 yards. He did that in 13 games, right? Austin Hooper was not an every down tight end because Austin Hooper is not a great blocking tight end. He's fine. He can get in the way, but he's not a great blocking tight end.
He's your stretch the field. Exactly. He's the Evan Ingram.
Hayden Hurst is a much better blocking tight end than Austin Hooper will ever be. Hayden Hurst, so he's going to have that built in. That's part of the every down back. I understand that's not a huge use for fantasy, but he's also a good pass catching tight end as well. I look, he's my 7th tight end after Evan Ingram, after the top 6, which is Evan Ingram, the Darren Wallers, and then obviously the top guys. Hayden Hurst is that next tier down, and I'm very excited to talk about him on the next episode that we're going to do. And I mean, look, he's a dude that I think you should really consider late in drafts if you're waiting on tight end.
Yeah, for me, if you don't land one of like the big 5 is where I put it, and then after that, the 2 names that come to mind for me is Hayden Hurst and a Hunter Henry, who should be revitalized this year for L.A.
Yeah.
Hayden Hurst is good. He's going to get his targets. He's going to be using this offense, and there is a lack of tight end spot there. He's good to go. I mean, Mark Andrews washed him out of Baltimore, and that's sad to say. Very talented coming out of South Carolina.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Let's move on, and this is a little bit of a pat in the back for me. I probably wouldn't put this in if it wasn't a guy that I have championed, right? And we'll actually talk about it later on as well. J.J. Taylor. This is I did a draft profile on this guy, running back out of Arizona State. He was compared to Dion Lewis in camp. He is having an awesome camp with the Patriots. He was an undrafted free agent, which is criminal. He should not have been undrafted, but he's 5'5", and that kind of makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's a small guy, he's a sneaky guy, but I will give it to you. This is a guy that you said a long time ago, because you do your rankings, you do them on your own computer with your own system, your own formula, and J.J. Taylor spit out a really good score to you, and it was like, hey, man, there might be something here. And he went undrafted. Sadly, like you said, he shouldn't have gone undrafted at all. But he landed in a good spot, and he landed in a spot that uses the running backs. Yeah, exactly.
It's good. Yeah, I'm excited. I think J.J. Taylor, look, if you're in a 25 round draft, you might consider J.J. Taylor late. That's about where his fantasy value is right now.
Don't be surprised if you see him pop off 1 week, though.
Exactly. I'm telling you guys, look, this could be. I'm not saying it's going to be. I'm just saying there is a small possibility that this could be like a Philip Lindsay type of thing, where all of a sudden he shows up, week 2, week 3, whatever it is, and kind of gets a chance, because the Patriots again are the type of team they'll run whoever. They don't care.
Who he reminds me of, and it's a guy who burst onto the scene in kind of the same format. Tariq Cohen.
Yeah.
I mean,
he could absolutely be that type of guy.
He exploded. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 now.
Yeah.
He exploded under the scene. He was everyone's top waiver acquire that you wanted.
Yeah.
J.J. Taylor could do that one of these weeks. You never know.
And we'll see what happens. Look, it's just a name to keep in the back of your mind. If he does blow up, we will probably clip this out and give ourselves a little bit of props here.
Famous. We'll move on to the Colts. Michael Pittman Jr. He is expected to have an early season role, and it's one of those guys that when we talk about how deep this rookie wide receiver class is, he is not getting mentioned. There's a few other names to go alongside of him, but if he's able to become that number 2, but even number 3 with Phillip Rivers, there's points to be had there.
Listen, this is another guy in a loaded wide receiver class that got swept under the rug. Michael Pittman Jr., he was a top 10 wide receiver for me. He was a top 10 wide receiver drafted. I believe he was the second wide receiver. Yeah, he went right after T. Higgins. It was T. Higgins at 33 and then Michael Pittman at 34. The Colts drafted him ahead of Jonathan Taylor. So this is a guy that they like. This is a guy who's exploding on the scene in camp.
He's been getting great reviews.
He is a name to know. Yes. He is absolutely a name to know. And on a team, look, we talked about the Chargers a little while ago with who's going to step up. You could say similar things about the Colts. Like there's an opportunity for somebody to step up and get a prominent role behind T.Y. Hilton. I mean, it's T.Y. Hilton and then everybody else, right?
It's T.Y. Hilton when T.Y. Hilton's healthy.
Exactly.
That's another thing to look at where Michael Pittman could step up and fill in these roles.
Yeah. And look, listen, I love Paris Campbell, their second-round pick from 2 years ago. I thought he was actually my number 2 wide receiver that year. So I do think he's also named to go for the Colts. But look, you have 3 wide receivers to know on the Colts. I do believe that. And Michael Pittman, sneaky pick, another name to know. Justin Jefferson. There are conflicting reports. Like we talked about Justin Jefferson last week. We got to bring this up, and it's just a weird one, right? One report saying he is firmly the third receiver on the depth chart, and then there's another report that came out that he has distanced himself from the rest of the Vikings wide receivers. Obviously besides Adam Thielen. I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I think he's number 2 receiver. I think he will end up being, like, even if the depth chart week 1 says BC whatever.
BC Johnson.
BC Johnson.
I mean, that's a name that I didn't even think it would be, just because he has the continuity of being in the organization and stuff. But it's Justin Jefferson.
Exactly.
Gotta be.
Like I said, even if BC Johnson is the number 2 on the depth chart, I think targets and everything else that goes along with it in game will prove that Justin Jefferson is the true number 2 receiver on that team. Exactly. And look, we're both championing him. I don't think there's much more to say other than the fact that we both think he's going to be a star. We both think he's going to be fantasy relevant this year.
Yeah, I'm going to get him tonight in our draft.
We'll see.
Maybe.
You might.
Maybe you're going to take him from me. Nick Wagoner believes that Kendrick Bourne has been the most consistent receiver at the 49ers camp. It could be a name to know whenever the 49ers wide receiver depth is definitely going to be tested this year. They brought in all those veterans we know, but we have Brandon Ayuk, who's kind of tweaked the hamstring. Debo's coming off of that foot injury, and Jalen Hurd is out. So
yeah, I mean, look, he could be the number 1 wide receiver week 1.
Ooh, he could.
Brandon Ayuk might not play week 1.
Well, and in that offense,
Debo Samuels might not play week 1.
Got to get him.
Kendrick Bourne, look, he showed up a little bit last year. Just another deep guy, a name to know. Not somebody I'm championing by any means.
Yeah.
But man, with the 49ers injury history with the wide receiver position.
Don't be surprised week 1 if he pops off with like 7 or 8 targets or something like that. I mean, that's very likely.
He's a sneaky DFS pick. If you play daily fantasy, if that's something you're into, he's a sneaky DFS pick week 1. But moving on, Josh Allen is reportedly struggling in camp. This is unfortunate.
Let me hear it.
Staring down receivers, holding onto the ball too long. There was a whole report that came out from the beat writer. There's not a lot of excitement coming out of the Josh Allen camp out of Buffalo. And I think this is scary, man. It is.
Let me hear it.
I'm not going to give you shit because I was a Josh Allen fan too. I mean, I think we're both on it.
Well, why would you want to not be behind the hype and the ceiling that this guy has? It's just sad to say we are going on to the 3rd year now where this is supposed to be. Last year was a good year. I would say it was a step up from.
It was a good year, but if you dive deep into the stats, and really once I did this, I did kind of take a step back from the stands.
Yeah.
That like I still believe in Josh Allen, but I'm a little scared of because you looked at the stats. There were very serious, inconsistency issues.
There were
very serious.
But whenever the lights were bright. And he did bring his game.
He showed up.
And we saw glimpses of what he that's
so
a true
much talent.
that's the glimpses that we saw is Pro Bowl level.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear this because these are still the same mechanical type of errors that you want the quarterbacks who have the physical gifts to get. And by their 3rd year they should have it. And by the end of the 3rd year, I think we'll know whether Josh Allen has it or doesn't.
Yeah, I think we will. And like this actually reminds me of another report. And I don't even know if we talked about it on this camp, but I remember seeing it. It was a report out of Buffalo that said that the head coach could outlast the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And basically saying that the Bills are not so much tied to their quarterback coach combo, and they like their coaching staff. They like what they're doing. If Josh Allen's not the guy, they might move on from him next year. If he isn't. Look,
because we're in a day and age where whenever it comes to your quarterback getting paid, they re-up. They reset the market value. And Josh Allen is not at that level.
Not at all.
He's not.
Not at all.
You could pay him around a top 15 quarterback. And I know I was high on Josh Allen last week, and I still am high because I see the potential and what he can do.
Yeah.
And it's sad to me because I don't think he's had the right weapons around him. Let's go into last year with John Brown. I don't want to sit here and listen to anyone say that John Brown's a top 15 receiver in the league.
Not
John
even
Brown
close.
put up good numbers because of Josh Allen being around him and stuff. John Brown's not shit. But now with Stephon, now with Devin Singletary, now with the built-up O-line, we get to really see what he's about.
We're gonna see
no
what
more
happens.
excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, this is his year. Look, this is a report out of camp from one guy. Everybody who's played sports has had a bad practice. We've all been there. This could just be a bad practice. This could be absolutely nothing. We could still be right, and Josh Allen could still be really good this year. Look,
I'm not sold on him. I'm still here for it.
Yeah. We're not selling Josh Allen by any means, but it's worth mentioning. We kind of have to put the good with the bad a little bit, and sometimes a guy that we've championed on this podcast, I feel like we had to kind of take a step back and be like, hey, it's not all good out there with the Buffalo.
When you're standing up, it comes and takes your feet
exactly.
out.
But like we said, look, he has no excuses this year. We'll see. The one thing to think about is if he has maybe the same year he had this past year, right, where there was good and bad, and we just don't know, and we want another year, whatever. If that happens this year, we're going to be in the situation where do you give him that 5th year? Do you give him the 5th year contract? Right, the 5th year thing. Yeah, we don't know. It could be one of those situations where what the Titans did with Mariota, where they didn't give him the 5th year option, and they said, hey, prove it in year 4, and if you prove it, we'll see what happens. he didn't prove, and obviously they moved on. But we'll see what happens with Josh Allen. Moving on to another quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger is short-arming throws in practice. This is more bad news for a quarterback compared to Phillip Rivers in the release. And this is just, again, another beat writer that was talking about the throw. We don't know how accurate this is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, if Ben Roethlisberger, who has never thrown like Phillip Rivers in his entire career, is starting to do this number, like he just pushes the ball instead of actually throwing it, God, that's scary.
Well, that's not what you need, because the thing with being compared to Phillip Rivers is Phillip Rivers has always done that.
Yeah.
He's always had his own unique mechanic.
He's had a weird mechanic his entire career. Yeah.
Big Ben with that injury is known to just derail quarterbacks, and none of them are even near this age where Big Ben's at. I think that Pittsburgh is going to be a really good team this year. I am high on them, but this is definitely not something that you want to hear, because Mike Tomlin is an amazing coach. What he was able to do last year speaks volumes for his ability.
Yeah.
If you get Big Ben back, if you get a healthy Big Ben back, oh gosh, I mean, I honestly, I'm high on Juju now.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it the past week. I have no problem taking Juju tonight in one of our drafts.
Like in the third, he's going in the third round.
round.
You like him in the third?
I'm totally okay with the third round right now.
Yeah.
Because I believe in Big Ben, and I have a problem with doing that and just putting off injuries. Be like, he's good. He's good to go, because this guy is one of the greats. I mean, he's a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And I hope that he's good to go, but that's not what you want to hear.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the injury. This is an injury. He had the elbow injury, and it didn't look like anything, and obviously it was a bigger thing. It's that tendon in the elbow that is so important for throwing the football. It has ruined the careers of former baseball players. It has ruined the careers of NFL players. Granted, that's that's a long time ago. There's a lot of names that we can bring up from the 70s and 80s that it's ruined careers for. Not so much, in recent history. There's also been a lot of stories of guys coming back from this. It's just something to know that this injury could be a career ender, and we'll find out. This is one report. I haven't seen anything other than this one report out about Big Ben, but also, if things aren't looking good, teams aren't just going to volunteer that information. There's definitely a chance that the guys in Pittsburgh are a little nervous about Big Ben, and we'll see what happens. We're not going to know until week 1 how legitimate this quote is, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. We'll move on to Sam Darnold's new favorite target is what's coming out of camp. Chris Herndon, you were really big on him last year as a breakout candidate.
I was.
Suspensions, injuries kind of didn't really pan out, but that is one of those names we were talking about, tight ends, that he goes right alongside there. In an offense that doesn't really have someone emerging yet, this could be the guy.
Yeah, I actually I loved him last year. He was the guy I was looking for in every single draft last year. And then the suspension hits, he's out 4 games. I'm like, okay, well then I guess I'll just take him, later on. And then injury hits, and it's just derailed his entire season. So look, this could be the post hype bounce back kind of thing for Chris Herndon, because I know there was a lot of hype around him. I wasn't the only one that was excited about him. But we'll actually move on. That is the end of our word from camp. We loaded word from camp section. I hope you guys enjoyed it,
because you get to hear what guys who focus on they specialize on that team. You get to see their opinions. They're the ones who know the most about
it. It's so much fun, right? Yeah. I feel like we get a deeper dive into the football. We have so much more, insight on a lot of guys around the league. A lot of fun. So we're going to move on to fantasy football profile of the week. Tyler Lockett is my dude. All right, so Tyler Lockett. What if I told you could have a receiver that was wide receiver 13 last year on a run-first football team? What if I told you could have a receiver that has produced year after year since he's gotten that starting job in a big way? And he's a deep threat on the best deep ball passer for the deep ball passing quarterback in the league. I worded that terribly. He is a deep threat for the best deep ball passing quarterback in the NFL in Russell Wilson. Look, I said wide receiver 13 last year. I'm talking about 82 receptions, 1,057 yards, and 8 touchdowns last year. He produced 23% of the total market share of receptions, 24% of the total market share of receiving yards, and 25% of the total market share of receiving touchdowns last year for his team. All right? I am projecting him to have about the same amount of production as last year. I'm not saying it's going to go crazy. I gave him a little bit of a bump up because I believe that the Russell Wilson and the Seahawks are going to throw the ball more this year. But the thing that is ridiculous, I have him as my wide receiver 10. If you don't want to put him inside your top 10, that's fine. But it's not crazy. I have him 3 more spots than he was last year. Oh, and he missed 2 games last year. He didn't miss 2 games. He had a serious injury where he was active but he only had one target between a 2-game stretch, so he essentially missed 2 games. So it's one of those things where it's very interesting to like, if you really dive into it, he basically missed 2 games without getting considered missing 2 games. The thing that kills me is he is being drafted as the wide receiver 21 in fantasy this year, behind DK Metcalf, and DK Metcalf's awesome. DK Metcalf is the wide receiver 2 on this team. Russell Wilson has trusted Tyler Lockett for 5 years now. Russell Wilson has only thrown to DK Metcalf for 1 year. Russell Wilson has the trust tree, and Tyler Lockett is firmly ingrained in that. I'm not saying DK Metcalf's going to have a bad year. This is not anti-DK Metcalf in any way, but the first receiver taken from the Seattle Seahawks should be Tyler Lockett. He is, I would say, a lock for 1,000 yards. He's a lock for 7 or 8 touchdowns. He's a lock for 75-plus receptions. I have him at 90, but I mean, that's just me. Might be a little bit higher on him, but at the absolute floor, he's wide receiver 16, wide receiver 17. He's being drafted as wide receiver 21. This just speaks to the depth in the fantasy football draft this year, where you can find guys like a Tyler Lockett that maybe aren't the exciting pick because he's a name that's been around for a while, but this is a dude who's going to produce. And, I mean, do you have any thoughts? Do you disagree anywhere?
No, I mean, I think you killed it. I think you believe Russell Wilson is a top 5 quarterback, right? Most of you believe Russell Wilson is a top 5 quarterback, right? So why are you not going to go get his most trusted partner in crime, the guy who has the deep ball connection, guy who has a fully developed route tree who can situationally run anything? I'm going to shit on DK just a tad here and say that there are times where DK is limited in a spot to where there are some routes that he can't do and he can't perfect, like a Tyler Lockett. Hopefully that'll all be settled by the end of this year and he gets more accustomed to the league and stuff, which it will. DK's a great receiver. Tyler Lockett should go before him.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett has the weapons, like you said, a lock for 1,000 yards. If Russ throws for 4,000, how do you not expect his number one guy to not get 1,000?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I just want to put in my projections. I'm projecting 90 receptions for 1,061 yards and 8.75 touchdowns. That is almost exactly the same stats that he had last year. So that puts him as wide receiver 10 this year. So, like, I mean, at least in my projections. So
that's good numbers for a guy who goes, I think, in the 5th or 6th round.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous about how low he's going, how disrespected he's being.
Yeah. You ready for mine?
Let's hear it. Any
Rick and Morty fans out there? I'll do it. I'll go, Scary Terry, bitch. it's Terry McLaurin for the Washingtons is what we'll say. I think he is a stud of a receiver. He was PFF's number 1 rated rookie wide receiver. He was only 0.2 points behind, I believe, Josh Jacobs last year as the overall rookie value player. And he put up 900 yards, 58 receptions, 7 touchdowns. Keep in mind, on a ass team, completely horrible team in 14 games. This guy has the potential to blow past 1,000 yards, in my opinion. I think he has a chance to get close to 1,200. I've heard a lot of good buzz around Dwayne Haskins, cutting his body fat percentage. He's maybe has his head on right. And if they can start to develop that relationship that you want, quarterback to receiver, we saw what he did last year on a horrible team.
Yeah.
In 14 games, off of 58 receptions. Give him 80 receptions. How many more yards is he getting off that? That's 250 easy, you'd think, right?
Yeah, easily.
Touchdowns might stay around the same. I fear because it's a bad team, but we saw what he did on a worse team, and I do think they're going to be better, right? I mean,
you would think.
I wouldn't say better. I mean,
they're not going to be much worse.
That's the way that we'll word it. Yeah, when you're already dog shit. You can't digress.
Listen, I said at the beginning of this pod that I think Washington has a chance to at least be.
They do.
They have pieces, is what I'm saying.
Them and Jacksonville are the two for the number 1 pick, I would say.
Yeah.
But they do have weapons, and Scary Terry is one of your weapons. His ADP puts him in the middle of the 4th round. He goes above Stephon Diggs. He goes right behind an Odell. He's getting brought up with some of the big boys out there, but I'm here to tell you that you shouldn't be scared in taking him. You shouldn't be scared of him being your wide receiver 2. You would be more than happy with his production and his numbers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. All right, let's move on to our final segment. I know this seems a little bit short, but we're already at an hour, so I mean, I guess it's not that short. We are doing our top 5 deep sleeper fantasy picks.
Add like 6 more deeps on. Like, these are deeps to where we are in a 20-round keeper league, to where these are some of the guys that we will be looking from 15 to 20.
Yeah, we basically said, hey, we're not going to put anybody on here that you would draft in a regular redraft league, right? That was kind of our limit, right? Yeah. And top 5, look, it's really hard to rank these. For me, I picked 5. I'm not going to lie.
These are pretty much guys, including honorable mentions for me, that I just want my name attached to. That it's like, I really think they're good. I think that they may have some piece of value to their team.
Yeah. All right, let's go back and forth. I'm going to start with...
How many honorable mentions do you have?
I have 3, but I'm going to talk about 2 of them at the same time.
That's fine. I have 3.
Okay, so I'll let you go first. Yeah. You go first.
Alrighty. I will start it off. Jalen Hurts. I know this is a guy that you don't like necessarily. Not that you don't like necessarily. That it was kind of confusing as to why he went in the second round.
Yeah.
But Carson Wentz is injury prone. I mean, we have to at least acknowledge that Carson Wentz is a great quarterback. But I do think with a coach like Philly has, they're going to find a way to utilize Jalen Hurts. They always find ways to utilize the like Swiss Army knives of the league. He could become their Taysom Hill, if you will.
Yeah.
And also, if Carson Wentz goes down, which has happened in the past 3 years, Jalen Hurts gets to step up. Jalen Hurts does have some weapons around him. The O-line is beat up, so I can't really paint you that good of a picture as I wished I could have when Brandon Brooks was still healthy. But here we are. I mean,
yeah. Look, I mean, they're replacing Brandon Brooks with
Jason
Peters. That's not a bad pick.
And they have Lane Johnson.
Yeah, their offensive line isn't bad at all. I mean, it's
Ertz,
top half
Dallas
in the NFL.
Goddard. You have Jalen Reagor, who might be able to become that.
Look, so I mean, I assume this is kind of like a super flex type of thing, right? If you're in a super flex redraft league, maybe take them with your last pick.
And I look at it from a keeper standpoint in our league because we get to use keepers, and if you're able to get Jalen Hurts super late,
you take him 19-20.
Yeah, and he shows up as Taysom Hill's guy, and something's wrong with Carson.
Some value there. Yeah,
exactly.
Some serious value. Okay, fair enough. One of my honorable mentions, Devin Duvernay.
Yeah.
Look, I've talked about him a lot on this pod. My name is firmly attached to Devin Duvernay. I know that. Devin Duvernay, wide receiver for the Ravens, I believe has a very good chance to take over the slot receiver role that Willie Snead. Thank you so much. He has a chance to take over the wide receiver role that Willie Snead had last year, and Willie Snead had like 60 or 70 targets last year. Devin Duvernay could fall into that category. He is a deep sleeper on a team that has a lot of targets, and you don't know how much he has a lot of mouths to feed. I understand that. I believe in the talent of Devin Duvernay, and I believe that he has a small chance to break out this year and be a lot more valuable than maybe anybody's thinking about right now, especially in a keeper league where you could see a year of positive upside and then get to keep him for next year when he actually has some serious value.
And once Willie Snead exits because he's kind of getting older, and once I don't know what his contract is, but once that's expired, I'm sure the team will move
Willie
on with
Snead
the
was statistically one of the, I believe, in the bottom 5 of efficient wide receivers last year. Willie Snead wasn't good last year.
That sucks.
Based on advanced stats and whatever. I don't have all
that.
Of them.
That is a team that is loaded now with Hollywood, with Willie Snead. We'll still say Devin Duvernay, Miles Boykin, and my guy that they got in the 6th round, James Prochet, too, is another guy that I'm really big on. Not on my honorable mentions necessarily. I think that's going to take him more time. Devin Duvernay's good though.
Yeah,
that's solid.
Absolutely.
I'll keep it in the wide receiver realm. Colin Johnson. He came out of Texas.
Another Texas guy.
I'm telling you, I loved Colin Johnson, man. The stuff that I saw whenever we were watching Senior Bowl highlights, he made 2 cornerbacks look silly.
Yeah.
And he is 6'5", 200-something pounds. And he is shifty enough to put them on their butts. He's good. He's tall. He's lanky. He can go up and get the ball, but he can also run those precise routes, and he's shifty enough to do it. He went, I believe it was the 5th or 6th round to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah. It's
a position where they do have a lot of young names. DJ Shark, Laviska Shenault. We're going to see where all of those guys plug in.
And then you still have like a Keelan Cole, Marquise Lee, I believe.
It could be one of those things where we don't know what's going to happen with him yet, but I know the talent is there, and I know that if he's able to get that chance, 6'5", 200 speaks for itself.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so my last honorable mention, they're 2, but I'm going to bring them up at the same time. These are 2 undrafted rookie running backs that I had in my top 5 of running backs going into the draft. J.J. Taylor, who we talked about earlier on this pod, he is having a great camp and is looking to not only make the team, but maybe have an impact the way that Dion Lewis had his first couple years with the Patriots. The other one is Jermichael Hastings. Hasties. Sorry, I mispronounced his last name. But Jermichael, who was a Baylor running back, who was kind of in a timeshare in Baylor, he was the guy I was actually really high on. I think he was my 8th running back on the depth chart. I actually really liked.
Yeah.
Goes undrafted, goes to the 49ers, and when I tell you his skill set fits the 49ers mold of running back perfectly, fits it perfectly. And he's also getting grave reviews for the 49ers. Look, these are 2 names. They are super low in the depth chart. These are guys that I took in a dynasty league, a Devy league, but essentially a dynasty league, and I believe the 23rd and 24th round, right? So not guys that you're looking at by any means in a redraft or even probably a keeper league. But they're definitely names to know, names that I believe have a chance for serious upside in the next couple of years, especially JaMychal Hastings, who is a running back on the best running team in the NFL right now, a running team that pretty much divides their running backs pretty evenly. Like if there's a couple injuries, it would not surprise me a bit if Hastings came in and was actually able to produce a little bit.
Wow, I'm going to tone it down on my last honorable mention because that's hard to follow because you have guys who, mine is John Franklin III, and this is a guy some of you may not know. He may not make the roster for Tampa Bay, but there have been good reports coming out and saying that there is a chance that Bruce Arians has said that they will run him in a few plays and a few packages at quarterback. John Franklin III is the guy who was at Last Chance U's first season. He was pretty popular with that. He ended up going to Auburn. Things didn't really work out the way that you would want it to.
Yeah.
Found his way on the Bears, swapped over to defense. This guy's been a journeyman in the league. But the thing that always keeps you coming back to him is his blazing speed. He runs a 4.3 flat. He played quarterback throughout high school and college. I mean, he came to Auburn as a quarterback. I was really hyped about him. I thought it was going to be the next Nick Marshall type thing. And Bruce Arians knows how to use weapons. We get that. He has Tom Brady, who doesn't really bring that athletic fold to your offense, especially at your quarterback position.
Oh, yeah, no, he's not the athlete.
Exactly. So I don't think I should get any flack in saying that one. You never know. I'm saying this is one of the deep things that I just want my name to be around because John Franklin has never had a chance to explode, but there is a chance that he might be able to do something.
Yeah. I love it. All right, I'm going to go into my number 5. We actually talked about him earlier in this podcast. Yeah. Chris Herndon, tight end for the Jets. This is a guy who's going pretty much undrafted in a lot of leagues. This is a tight end who I believe could be a starter from day one. Just look, there's a lot of tight ends out there, and I have another one on this list that I'm going to talk about. There are a lot of tight ends that have some fantasy value. There really are. And look, after you get out of the top 6, I would say, I think there's a real tier jump from the top 6. It's really just a crapshoot on who you think is going to perform, who has a good chance. But there's a lot of guys that I'm looking at late that I would consider having serious tight end fantasy value. Chris Herndon's one of them. I really believe in him.
There's a ton of good tight ends. Like I said, if you don't get to dip into that top 5 elite ones, I mean you'll be okay. You know, just pick the right one. Maybe get 2 of them just so you can situationally play them based on certain weeks. But it's good. I'll go into my number 5, and it's back to the 49ers running back by committee approach in Jerick McKinnon. 2 years ago, the hype was through the roof. I mean, I believe you took him at the start of the 3rd round.
I took him. I was the first pick in our startup keeper league. Yeah. Right. I had the first. I went Todd Gurley, Tyreek Hill, and then I took Jerick McKinnon. Hit on the first 2.
Yeah, but and it worked out great for you. I mean, Jerick McKinnon has stepped up, and he's getting first-team reps. We weren't sure where the roster was going to shake up with him, having dead cap around him, and maybe he gets cut, maybe he doesn't. Yeah. He's there to stay, and I think it's one of those guys that you can get super late, and you'll be protected in doing so. Yeah,
and the thing with the dead cap is they're already paying him. They have to pay him $2 million no matter what. Why not keep him on the roster? It's not like he's hurting anything. So yeah, they're going to keep him. It's going to be interesting. I think they are going to use him as the pass catching back. That's what the 49ers do, man. I mean, take a shot on 49ers late. Don't take Raheem Mostert in the 4th or 5th round.
Don't take Raheem Mostert in the 4th or 5th.
And look, you can do it if you want. You're going to be sorely disappointed when week 3 or 4 comes around and Tevin Coleman busts off 150 yards. Look, the 49ers...
Yeah, Mostert will get you points, but compared to the other guys that go in those rounds...
It's just going to be...
you don't know what's going to happen week to week.
Week to week, it's just going to be so scary. Take shots on 49ers running backs late. Hope they start to break out and hope they have a Raheem Mostert second half of the season type of thing. Look, I had Raheem Mostert in almost every league last year at the end because I knew that I wanted pretty much every 49ers running back, and I'll take my chances with it. Some people don't want to play that game. I absolutely will because there is absolutely value, but you have to get them late or undrafted, and that's a Jerick McKinnon.
Shoot 10 shots, something's going to hit.
Yep. I mean, yeah. I'll move on. Another tight end, Mike Gesicki, Dolphins tight end, came onto the scene late. Oh, yeah, I'm very excited about him. He was my number 1 tight end when they drafted him, that year. And, he was drafted ahead of the Hayden Hurst and, Mark Andrews was that same draft.
Out of Penn State. He was
just a physical freak. That's kind of what he was. He's lining up in the slot a lot of times. This is a tight end. He could have the Mark Andrews breakout. He could have, I'm going to get flack for saying this, he has the potential to have the Kittle breakout. where I'm saying he just absolutely becomes a essential part of the offense for the Dolphins this year. I could see that. It makes sense when you have the same ties to the Patriots that utilize the tight end very well. It would not shock me.
You're not going to get shit on from me. Coming out of Penn State, I loved Gesicki. He's so talented. He is the physical type of mold that you want for a tight end that can just break the game open, like you said with Kittle. You know, it's bold in saying that, but there are flashes of it when it comes to body structure, when it comes to him lining up at the slot. His blocking ability is there. He really has it, and I think it just takes the targets. I mean, it's one of my downfalls in fantasy coming to attach the tight ends as they are immediately drafted, because it does take time for them to grow into that role, and around the third or fourth year is where they start to hit their stride, and Gesicki's in the third year.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Fourth, Chase Claypool. It was one of those guys that I wasn't too certain on. I wasn't too big on. Hybrid tight end, slot wide receiver. I don't know what he's going to do. Regardless, he has talent. He has physical ability. And Mike Tomlin's smart enough to know he's got to get his playmakers the ball. At the worst, this guy's going to be kick returning for you, and that's a stud doing it.
Yeah. Chase Claypool, man, a guy who, I mean, we talked about it again earlier on the spot. I was not super high on.
We shit on him. We shit on him before.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I did. I don't think you, I mean, I feel like you kind of pushed back a little bit, didn't you?
I played it safe. There's a lot of physical talent there.
Yeah, there absolutely is. I very much question his ability to separate in the NFL, but he's having rave reviews in camp. We'll see what happens. Definitely a name to watch, and definitely a very good sleeper pick. My number 3, John Ross. I know I'm going to get shit for this.
Wow.
I know you don't like this one.
Hear about
John Ross. Yeah, John Ross. All right, so look, this is the former first-round pick for the Bengals. Speedster. But former bust for the Bengals. Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Speedster. Look, if you go back to last year, the first 4 games before he got hurt, he was averaging 6 or 7 targets, 120 yards, and I believe he had 4 touchdowns in that
it looked
time
like
frame.
we were going to see the John Ross.
He had an awesome start to the season, and then he gets hurt, and it backfires. Look, I understand he's down on the depth chart, but if you look at what the Bengals are doing right now, another actually name is Auden Tate, who's having a great camp as well. Yes. Former Florida Stater, by the way. But look, T. Higgins just came back from a hamstring injury. We don't know how that's going to go. AJ Green, he hurt everything every single day.
I hate you.
And you have a guy who, look, every team in the NFL is looking for speed. Unless they have him, they're looking for him. John Ross's speed. I love Joe Burrow's deep ball in college. I think he could bring that to the NFL as well. I'm just saying, deep keeper has some breakout potential.
Well, it's a name that gets forgotten.
Too.
And
absolutely.
Now, the problem that I have is nothing to do with the speed, nothing to do with the numbers.
Yeah, the depth chart is the issue.
It's the depth chart. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But speed kills. Yeah, speed plays.
Right
and
now.
Health plays. And he's healthy.
Absolutely. Because look, he could be number 4 or 5 on the depth chart. Yeah. You have Auden Tate, who's going to make the team. Big body, slow receiver though. You have the.
I mean, it's AJ Green, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd was the other name I was going to look at. Taylor Boyd's going to be a starter. We don't know where he's going to fit in, but it's definitely a name to know.
My number 3, and here it comes. I already know you're gonna fucking smile. It is my attachment to tight ends coming out in round 1. Cole Kmet for the Chicago Bears. Do not like where he landed. I don't. I'll say it. I don't think it could have been a better spot. I mean, he could have been in 31 other better spots, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like 11 tight ends on that roster.
Look.
And Trubomski's throwing in the ball.
I'll let you go first.
It's bad. I'm not big on the Bears system. I'm not big on a Matt Nagy. But the one thing I do know is Cole Kmet. I get into the physical guys. Damn, that was bad. That was really brilliant.
You get into the physical guys.
I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to say that. I love his skill set. There we go. His physical attributes pop off the chart. That's the better words that I'm into physical guys.
They pop off, yeah.
That's what it is. He's good. I'm saying for a late sleeper pick, don't do it like I did Hawkinson last year. Mm-hmm. Well, I took Hawkinson late. I took him in the 13th round.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
That's fair. You could get Cole Kmet in the 15th or something. I want to see the quarterback situation. I want to see it be Nick Foles. Yeah. And then Cole Kmet gets out there and does that stuff. You never know. It's good.
Yeah, give it a year is what I would say for Cole Kmet.
I can't blame him for taking him, but I just like the Bears.
You're not getting shit from me. I think you might have thought he were. First of all,
you like physical guys too?
I like their skill set. Yeah, they pop off.
Fuck you.
All right, so look, Cole Kmet was my number one tight end by far. It was him and then everybody else, in my opinion. And look, in our Devy league, in our keeper, or our dynasty startup league that we did, a couple weeks ago now, I took Cole Kmet. I mean, he's a guy who I have Evan Ingram and Cole Kmet on my team. I'm excited about that. I think Cole Kmet's future is bright. And you said you don't like the landing spot. For a tight end on a team that has been searching for tight end their entire ever since Matt Nagy's
Zach
been
Miller
there.
Got hurt.
Since Matt Nagy has been there, he has been searching for his tight end to fill that Travis Kelce role in his offense. It could be Cole Kmet. I'm not saying it will be. I again would say I'm not taking a shot on Cole Kmet because I like the other two names that I said earlier on this podcast more, and I also like other names as well.
I'm probably going to get him. I'm probably going to get him super, super late.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. The breakout potential is there for a team that you said you like him on 31 other teams. For a rookie year, I don't know if there's another team I would want him on more than the Bears. Yeah, for a team
Trubisky for me. He pisses me off, man.
I get it, but I think Nick Foles is throwing the ball.
Allen Robinson was one of my top 3 wide, and I mean that. Top 3. That's with Julio. Going back 3 years ago, he was up there for me as one of my favorite wide receiver options. And he goes to Chicago, and there's so much hype, and it's like Matt Nagy's going to know how to use this guy, and it's going to be so good.
Listen,
he shits on him.
He didn't, but I mean, he still gets
1,000. He still does that. He has top 5 potential. Allen Robinson is so talented, and I'm tired of seeing the Bears get good talent and waste it. David Montgomery.
Yeah, look, I'm not.
Trey Burton.
If you think I want to defend the Bears, you are sorely mistaken.
No, you're on the side of Chicago now.
No, I am not. I am not defending the Bears in any way.
Skull.
All I am saying is the Bears had 11 tight ends on their roster for a reason. They are searching for the answer at tight end. They got it in Cole Kmet. He has the potential to be a rookie breakout. Look, if you ask me,
when it comes to Matt Nagy in the Kelce role, yes, there is a need for that they are trying to fill. And I love their draft because they also got Jalen Johnson, who was one of my top.
They had a good draft this year, in my opinion.
They do, but they're just shit.
Yeah, well, I'm not arguing with that either.
Oh, we're on the same page between the pylons.
Okay. You messed me up. I wasn't ready. All right. All right, my number 2, Nyheim Hines. Look, this is the forgotten man in Indianapolis. Everyone wants to talk about Jonathan Taylor. Everyone wants to talk about Marlon Mack. I had a 6, 7, 8 page Twitter rant this morning on Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if you saw that. I've hosted pretty much everything I think about Jonathan Taylor. Check me out at Between Pylons.
Throw the plug in.
Yeah. Nyheim Hines is the forgotten man. He is the pass catching running back on the Phillip Rivers-led Colts. And I don't need to tell you how valuable the pass-catching running back on a Phillip Rivers team is. Phillip Rivers is dink and dunk quarterback. He throws it to his running back all the time. He throws it to his tight end all the time. He loves these short over-the-middle passes because that's just the way he throws the ball. He's really good at just pushing it, and I'm just messing around.
You hate him.
I like Phillip Rivers fine. But yeah, I think Nyheim Hines, he is not getting enough love. Look, again, this is a deep sleeper. This is a guy who could have some serious value in PPR leagues. That's all I'll say.
We've argued with a lot of people over the Colts backfield recently.
Yeah.
A lot of people. And it probably should be another person here to give them that argument because both of us are the minority in this decision, but I really don't think so. Nyheim Hines is not gone. Frank Reich has come out and said that he will have a role in the passing game.
Yeah.
And then you still have Marlon Mack, who did really good last year. You have Jonathan Taylor, who's a damn horse, who's going to be the guy, but it's going to take time to get around all the guys.
Yeah.
And then you have a coach who just wants to use all the guys anyways.
Yeah.
Running back by committee, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's
nothing
a really
wrong
good
with
system. Nyheim Hines is a good pickup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 2, I had to taper off my hype last year of him because of the injury that happened to him. And as Laviska Shenault, he went to Jacksonville in the 2nd round. I was honestly shocked to see him still go that high considering the injury.
Yep.
And the 40 time. 40 time was one of those. Yeah, he's a really good playmaker.
I don't care what he's shifty. He's not straight line fast, but he's shifty. That's all you need.
He's shifty. He's a big body. He balled up on people at Colorado, man. For me, he was above T. Higgins for me.
Yeah.
Before he got hurt, and then once he got hurt, I kind of had to save that and just kind of hedge the bet a little bit because you never know with the injuries and where the fall happens. And Jacksonville is one of those spots there where I do think there is a young offense. There is opportunity that is going to be given.
Wait. Do you have two running backs in the same
two wide receivers
on this Jacksonville offense on here?
Yeah.
All right, no,
I mean they're going to be a bottom 5 pick. They're going to suck.
Yeah,
take 10 shots, one's going to hit.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Laviska, Colin Johnson, these guys have, for me, actually, almost every single name on this list has the physical talent.
Yeah.
That's one of the things.
Look, I love Laviska Shenault.
No, you don't.
Okay, I hate Laviska Shenault. I think he's shitty. This is the worst pick ever. No, I like Laviska Shenault. He's just fine.
Just fine.
I didn't mean that like just fine, but he's fine. Look, I think it's going to be a similar thing with DJ Shark last year. He took a year as a rookie and didn't do a whole lot, and then came onto the season last year. I would expect similar things from Laviska Shenault. But at the same time, man, we don't know how. I think they're going to be passing the ball a lot.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be forced to. And
it's Minshew-mania.
I like it. I like the pick. I think it's interesting. Not a name I would have had on there, but I think it's definitely a name to know. I liked it. Very last one. I'm going to do a receiver. I'm not doing a rookie receiver. I'm doing a guy who's been in the league for a little while, Kenny Stills. Wide receiver for the Houston Texans. And look, I understand that he's kind of been the forgotten man a little bit in Houston. Look, is he the third receiver on this team? Is he the second? I don't know. You have Brandon Cooks. You have Will Fuller for about 4 games, and then you have Kenny Stills and Randall Cobb. I think Kenny Stills is the second best receiver on that team. I think he will be for the majority of the game because
Deshaun had some high praise of him, did he not?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And look, Will Fuller, he's going to be hurt half the year. It's just going to happen. That's guaranteed.
Chalk that up.
Yeah, I'd chalk it up to a hamstring or whatever happens, lower leg injury. He just runs too fast for his own good. I don't know what it is. Kenny Stills, he's going to be one of those guys that I think is going to be a solid fantasy producer. I'm not expecting huge hype, but if you're looking for a floor pick late, and that's not usually what people look for, but a floor pick late, if you're in a deep league that has to start 3 or 4 wide receivers, you need Kenny Stills on your bench because there is a high floor type of guy that I would look at. I absolutely would.
Yeah, I mean, I can't emphasize enough how important having depth and floor, a mixture of floor and ceiling. Go ahead, say it. I messed up. You're laughing. You're smiling. You're smiling. And just because I mess up, that's fine. You got to have the mix of floor and the ceiling because the floor guys are the ones that that are going to come in and get you 10 to 12 points a game. I compare that to like a Larry Fitzgerald right now in the league. These are guys, you can't just take all the cool, pretty shots. You can't just do Cam Akers in the 4th round all the time. You can't, you got to get some guys that are going to be instant plug-and plays and get you guaranteed points. My number 1, Michael Pittman Jr. We talked about him earlier. You were still laughing, you child. You're a grown man. Compose yourself. Compose yourself.
I'm telling you,
I'm
putting it on the list.
No, it's going on the list.
It's on the list.
You son of a bitch. Michael Pittman Jr., he is stepping up. I truly think he's going to be the number 2 by the time it's all said and done. Paris Campbell didn't really live up to that role where there was opportunity last year.
Well, he was hurt a lot last year.
He was, but he still had chances and still didn't really pull in that many targets.
Fair enough.
I think it's going to be a good team. I think Phillip Rivers, as long as he gets to play indoors, he gets to play behind a great offensive line, and he has a running game to take some pressure off of him. Michael Pittman.
I love it. Michael Pittman, again, another guy who I was very high on coming into the class. We talked about him a little bit earlier on this pod, but I mean, I think, super, super good pick there, number 1. All right, guys, I think that we're going to close it out right here. Please, if you are watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. And then if you do that, may as well comment and try and get this T.Y. Hilton jersey. Just say you're here for the jersey, something. You can tell us what you thought about the pod. You can tell us what you thought about our picks or whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then just say something about the jersey. You'll be entered to win. Go do that on last week's episode. Go do that on Apple Podcasts. Go do that on any podcast you listen to. And then DM me at Between Pylons and send me a screenshot of it. You'll get entered to win any of those ways.
Bada bing, bada boom.
We want to give this T.Y. Hilton jersey away. We want to give it away to you. All you got to do is help us out, help us grow a little bit. We have been growing a lot. We really appreciate everybody who has been a part of that, everybody who's been on the journey. Guys, thank you so much. Check back next week.
Emphasize is a word, right?
Yeah, emphasize is. Infanticize isn't.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Peace out, guys.
7.